Okay, in this video, you're going to listen for some patterns or phenomenon that you could do for your phenomenon for this space unit, okay? Particularly, we're focused on patterns of the sun, moon, stars, and earth. Here, I'm going to give you some examples, but then you're going to spend the rest of the lesson time researching in books, in videos, on Google, trying to find the pattern you want to do and answering some questions. Okay? Here are some possibilities. Seasonal moons, like the blood moon or harvest moon. We aren't going to cover this in class, but this could be something you do for your phenomenon. But things we are going to cover in class, like phases of the moon, how the moon changes shape. We're going to do that in class. You could always pick that as your phenomenon. Constellation story or a specific constellation. We're going to look at stars a little bit, but if you're really interested in stars or a particular constellation story or constellation, you can pick one of those as your pattern. There are also seasonal constellations, constellations that show up in the seasons. You may want to do that. There are 8, speaking of constellations, there are 88 named constellations. Pick any one of them, pick a group of them. The zodiac constellations. Lots of choices there. Feel free to research and look into that. Some more things we will be covering in class, but you can also pick as your phenomenon. We're going to do lunar eclipses, solar eclipses. Either of those you can do. We are not going to do comets, and for the most part, shooting stars are not patterns, but some comets are, like Halley's Comet. So if you're interested in something like that, you might want to look into that. Also, there are lots of things in the sky that are not stars that look like stars. If you're interested in planets, the pattern you're going to want to look for is when they show up in the night sky. Some planets that are really kind of big on this, you can easily find things on are Mars, Jupiter, and Venus, and how they show up in the night sky. Remember, this needs to be an observable pattern from Earth. But if you're really interested in planets, that's a path you can take. Okay. So here are the questions you're going to ask yourself, and you're going to jot down in your notebook as you're thinking about patterns or choices for your phenomenon. Is it a pattern? Does it repeat predictably? You may have to look into this and research for this, but if you can find out that it's predictable, that scientists know when it's going to occur, it's a pattern. Remember, that's like lots of shooting stars are not, but some are, and even the times that there are lots of shooting stars in the sky, there are patterns for that. So if you want to follow that goal, feel free. Ask, is it a pattern? Do scientists know when it's going to happen? What are the important parts of the system of this phenomenon? You're going to need to fill out one of those forms, so you're going to need to know what are the important parts I need to include. What are the different perspectives that this pattern can be seen from? The easiest perspectives, the ones we've started with, are Earth and space. But many patterns, especially the eclipses and the constellations, depend where on Earth you are. So perspective is not only Earth or space. For some patterns, it will be where on Earth, or where and when. And how do the parts of the system interact to cause this pattern? Remember, this is kind of the second 2A. You're going to be describing what happens. Remember, you're picking a phenomenon and you're filling out that sheet that we've been working with and practicing with. But you're just picking the phenomenon and making your best guesses. Okay. This is just your initial stage of this. This is not, you don't need to know the answer. You don't need to research it in depth and give a perfect answer. Okay. Just pick something you're interested in, look into it in a little bit, make sure you can answer these questions. Okay. Or partially at least answer these questions so that you can show what you know and what you think about your phenomenon. You are filling out one of these sheets. This is what I'm talking about. We did those for Manhattan Henge. right? And then we did it for another henge. It was 9.0 and 9.2. This is the learning log for 9.3, which is your phenomenon. Okay, you're going to pick it and name it, call it what it is, what a person on Earth would see, the time period for this pattern, what's the predictability, how do they know when it's going to happen, when is it going to happen. And then another perspective. Often this is from space, what's happening in space, but this can be a perspective from Earth, like where you're looking. It can be two different perspectives. Eventually you're going to describe what happens in space, but that's you do, and then you write about it on the back. That's it. Good luck, have fun, and pick something you're really interested in.